Do you know someone who's struggling with sleep and you do not know how to help, but you would like to help more than anything else? Or are you struggling with sleep and you can see that your friends and family don't really know how to best support you? If you said yes to either of those, this video is for you. In this class, we're going to look at 3 don'ts and 4 do's that really can help anyone struggling with sleep arrive where we all want to be, a place of peaceful sleep and peace of mind. Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Insomnia Insight, in which we are going to look at things that can be tricky to tell a person or to do when somebody we love is struggling with sleep. And we're going to look at 4 things that can really help. But before we get into the kind of main content of this episode here, I just want to say that this topic is one that I've thought about for a long time to talk about, to teach on. In fact, over the years, many times people have been like, "Hey, Daniel, do you have anything for a friend or for a family member, for somebody for the person who's not struggling with something and who wants to support?" So this has been on my mind for a long time. With that said, almost all of the topics we cover here are things that I've taught on like countless times. This one is a little new to me. So although I have great conviction that we're going to talk about here is going to be really helpful, there may be things that I'm missing that I haven't seen, that haven't come up. So if you have, something that you felt, okay, this is a really great tip that fits in with this conversation, please put it in your comment section, and all in the comment section, I should say. And also, I've been actually wanting to have a guest or maybe multiple guests here on the channel that have helped someone in their life leave the sleep struggle. I think, in fact, we should have a playlist that is for people who want to support a loved one. And, content like this and interviews could be like really valuable in that playlist. So if you'd like to share how you helped a loved one, then let us know. Just send an email to Catherine@thesleepcoach.com, and we would love to have you as a guest. Now, with that said, let's look at the promised do's and don'ts, and we'll start with the don'ts because they, when we talk about don'ts, it can seem a little bit like finger wagging, like don't do this, don't do this. It's not quite as inspiring as the do's. So we'll save the do's for later, but for now, let's look at 3 don'ts, things that I've heard many times someone with struggling found not helpful, things that their friends and family did that they found was not helpful. So number 1, don't tell your person is the person in your life that is struggling with sleep, right? Don't tell your person about your hobbies and interests or what you think makes you sleep. In fact, the part about hobbies and interests, this came up just the other day. And this was somebody that has had insomnia themselves who said that when they struggle with insomnia, they found that many people would just say like whatever they like to do and just kind of suggested that as like a way to sleep. Like somebody would say, "Oh, I do jiu-jitsu. Why don't you start doing jiu-jitsu?" Or somebody said like, "I love crocheting. Why don't you start crocheting?" As if somehow that would make them sleep. In fact, it was sort of like they saw just an opportunity to plug whatever they like to do there, right? And in similarly to this is just suggesting whatever you think makes you sleep. Like, oh, well, I just take a hot bath in the night. That will do it for you too. Or like I read a really boring book because that helps me sleep. I bet that will work for you too. In reality, the problem here is that you don't actually understand what makes you sleep if you say these type of things. What you don't know is that sleep truly is a passive and effortless process. It just happens automatically when we're not trying to make it happen. It's a passive thing. And you don't really see that the things like you happen to like to do in the evening, there's no hidden agenda there. There's no intent. There's no like attachment. It's not like you are doing, practicing jiu-jitsu with a hidden agenda of like, I hope this makes me sleep, or that you're reading a book hoping like, oh, I hope this makes me sleep. If you would have done that, if you would have done all the things you like to do or the things you think makes you sleep, if you do them with intent and purpose of producing sleep, then they will actually keep you awake, because then we will no longer have this like passive and effortless state where we're not trying to achieve anything, right? So just keep this in mind, and that will keep you from giving these like unhelpful suggestions to your friend and loved one. Now, very similarly here, the second don't here is don't tell your person about things you've heard can fix insomnia. But this is so common. I wanted to stress it. And this is when somebody's like telling their friend or loved one with insomnia that, oh, I heard that sleepy time tea is really great, or oh, I heard that valerian root is perfect. Oh, I heard that if you just avoid blue screens, you'll do fine. Oh, I heard that if you just stop drinking coffee after 2 p.m., you'll be good. These are the things we hear over and over again. And chances are that your friend or family member with insomnia has already heard this a million times, has already tried these things, and will just be kind of annoyed that you give them tips that you think they haven't already heard of like a million times, right? That's one kind of like risk, if you will, one thing that's not helpful. And the other thing that's not helpful is, again, that you may send this person into this like rabbit hole of effort, like trying this, trying that, trying this, trying that, right? And the more and more things we try, the more we struggle with sleep, and the more we think something is wrong with us because all the things we hear that people are telling us should work isn't working for us, right? So definitely this well-meaning idea of like just telling somebody things we've heard can help is quite tricky. So that's another one of our don'ts. Now here's a third one that's quite common. And the third one is don't ask how your person slept every morning. Something that I've heard many times is someone who struggled with insomnia saying that every morning their spouse or their parent or somebody else would be like, how did you sleep? How did it go? How's your night? And of course that is well-meaning. This is somebody who cares, asking this question because they want to know, they want to be part and they want to try to help. But insomnia really can be understood as like a performance anxiety, right? When we have sleep struggles, it is actually because we're trying to produce sleep. We think something's wrong with us when we can't sleep, right? And we're trying to get that. And if somebody asks like, how did it go? Then we feel pressure. We feel like we have to perform. And either way, it's not helpful. Meaning, if someone says like, how did it go? How was your night? And we actually slept quite well. And we slept like, I slept great. And then, the response becomes like, yes, you got this. Like it's you have the solution, you get the fix or something like that. It leads to performance anxiety because then we're like, okay, I think I got this. Let me try to repeat that. Let me try to sleep well again, which leads to performance anxiety and effort and struggles, right? And if we had a choppy night and someone goes like, how did it go? And we go like, nah, I hardly slept. Then, the idea becomes, okay, that wasn't good, but you get another chance to try, you'll get it tonight instead, right? Either way, it leads to performance anxiety. So, kind of checking and monitoring is tricky. So although it's well-meaning, asking your loved one every morning, like, how do you sleep? Very, very tricky. So that lands on our don'ts as well. All right. Now we've covered those. And, if you recognize yourself as like, oh no, I've done all those things, just, don't be hard on yourself. Remember, everything came from a place where you really wanted to help. And that's why you're here too, by the way. You've gotten this far into this video. That means you are an amazing support person because you're actually taking the time to learn and to listen here, which is wonderful. And yes, let's move on to our do's here. So I would say my first do here is educate yourself about insomnia, not for the purpose of like troubleshooting or problem solving on behalf of your person, but more for your general understanding, so that you understand what your friend is going through. And one thing that's actually quite helpful here is that when you understand, you will no longer have this kind of puzzle look. And the puzzle look is something that a lot of people in our community have found quite disheartening or annoying or just not helpful. And that's when we say, like, when we, as in like when we struggle with sleep, we go like, oh my gosh, I can't sleep. I hardly slept tonight. And some just like, what do you mean? What do you mean you can't sleep? Like, what? Like that puzzle look, that puzzle look kind of signals that something odd must be going on, something that we cannot understand. Like, how can you not sleep? Like, what do you mean by that? When you have educated yourself and you understand that, insomnia is in a way sort of like a phobia where we have become afraid of something that actually can't harm us, that can give us a level of understanding when when we instead go like, oh, okay, we express understanding instead. We're like, aha. And we'll talk about this a little bit later on, but you can actually go even further, and see how you probably yourself have had this type of like phobias in your life. We'll talk about that in a second. But my point here is that if you understand that insomnia really comes from a place where our brain has kind of misunderstood not sleeping, which is being awake at night, as a threat, as something dangerous, then we can understand that this is not about like somebody who's like lost the ability to sleep. This is like insomnia happens when we have become really scared and frazzled. We think something is wrong with us, right? And then automatically leads us, when we understand that, we're not going to be like, try this, try this, try that. We're going to be much more empathetic and caring and gentle and careful, right? So like taking some time to understand insomnia, really, really helpful. And you can do that right here all our free content here is going to give you a very, very clear idea of what insomnia is. Number 2, offer to help in any way your person wants you to help. And I'm going to give some concrete examples of this, or at least one or two that I've come across. And one of them is researching in an educated way. And this is when, our person with insomnia says, for example, I don't really know what to do, but maybe you can help me. Maybe you can find a book or some resource, Uh, and this can help much because when we are ourselves in a kind of a frazzled and panicky state, it can be hard for us to see clearly and kind of and to decipher what's going on and to find a nice resource, particularly if the place where we're thinking of looking can be quite triggering for us. And I've heard many times somebody say like, I asked my spouse to go on Reddit because I know if I go on Reddit, I'm just going to become completely alarmed by all the horror stories. So I asked my husband to go on Reddit and do some research, or I asked my husband to go to Facebook. So like being a resource in that way, in kind of like researching in an educated way, because remember, if you're kind of like, if you don't understand insomnia and just researching, then they can be like, oh, this gadget is great. Oh, this supplement is great. But that's not where it's at. Like it's insomnia again, is this like emotional struggle. So with that in mind, you can research in an educated way and really, really help your person with insomnia find resources that are helpful. Number 3, think about some time in your life when you struggle with something others may not have understood. And this is what I alluded to when I talked about point 1 here under do's. If you think about your life, you can probably find some time, some episode, some period in your life where you had a difficult time and people didn't necessarily understand you. You could have said like, oh, I'm struggling with this. And people went like, well, that's not really a problem. Like, that's fine. That happened to me. That's not a big deal. But to you, it was, right? We humans are like, we're equipped with the survival machine of a brain, and it can identify things as threats that really aren't threats. And if you think about it, we can find times when that has happened to us. And when we understand that, then we can be like, my friend or my loved one who's struggling with insomnia, that's kind of like the time where I struggled with whatever it was, and that can give us like a level of understanding, which is really, really helpful. So we can see that, we really are all the same, and when you understand yourself, you understand everyone else, including the person in your life that struggled with insomnia. And that understanding is so, so helpful because we all want to be part of like, we all want to feel connected with other people. We're a pack animal. We want to feel part of the tribe, right? So if you really fully understand insomnia and understand not only insomnia, but understand that you've gone through quote unquote insomnia in some shape or form in your life too, that is really, really helpful because your friend will then feel like connected to you and know that they're what they're going through is actually something that we all gone through to some degree, to some extent, in principle, at least. And finally, I said, just being there. And that's maybe out of everything I've heard, is probably the most helpful. And by what I say, by being there, it can actually mean many things. And this is why it's so helpful to have someone like you in one's life when we're struggling with something, somebody that cares and really wants to help. Because being there can mean different things. It can mean like holding space, meaning just like listening, just like being there, giving a hug, just supporting in that way. Or it can mean like giving people space. Maybe that your friend, your loved one who's struggling with sleep, they are educated, they understand, they know how to help themselves. And how you can help is actually just give them space and not ask, not research, not do anything much. Just let them solve it by themselves. That may be the most helpful for your person. Or it can be like you may know that what can really help this person in your life that's struggling is actually to sort of activate them. Be like, nah, come on, let's go. Let's do something different. Like, you've been holed up for a long time. I'm going to take you out, like, or something like that. Only you may know that, what's the most helpful, but use your knowledge of your person to see how you can help them the most. Those are my points here. I hope they made a lot of sense. And as I said in the beginning, if you see things that I didn't pick up on here, please leave them in the comment section so that can help other people. And if you or you yourself want to be a guest and talk about how you helped someone, or you can think of someone that would be a great guest, then again, send us an email to Catherine@thesleepcoachschool.com. We'll conclude there for today. Thanks so much for tuning in, and see you soon. Bye-bye. Hi there, it's me, Coach Daniel, and I wanted to say thank you to everyone out there who is spreading the word. You know what I've noticed in the last 6 months to 12 months or something like that is when I ask people how they found us, one of the most common answers is somebody told me on Reddit. And every time I hear that, it really warms my heart. It makes me so glad to hear that someone went out of their way to tell a fellow human about the Sleep Coach School. If you're one of those people out there spreading the word, I want to say thank you so, so much. And if you're not, then maybe you'll see an invitation in doing so, or you can simply hit the like button or hit the subscribe button. That alone helps so, so much in getting our teachings out there and helping more and more people in the world. That was all I want to say here. Thanks so much for tuning in, and can't wait to see you again.